Hiya! I thought I'd give a little update centered on wood and water, two important things for us out here at Empty Mountain. I mean, water is important for everyone, not just us here at Empty Mountain, but we're especially tied into our water situation because we don't have it here. We don't have a well, we don't have on-site water. So anyway, a couple weeks ago we had 2 cords, not 1 but 2 cords of wood delivered from a guy who wonderfully sells it just down the road from us, which is handy. And we ordered 1 cord of wood from him in November that we started using in December. Like the 1st of December we started dipping into that cord because that's how low we were at the time. And this is what remains of that cord from what we bought in November, plus a little bit that's on our front porch. So, there's still a fair amount left, but also, of course, we've used quite a bit over the winter. And starting in February, we started using the sauna. So then we were feeding with wood 2 wood stoves, 1 for the sauna and 1 for our cabin for heat. So that feels pretty good. So we still have quite a fair amount left. I reckon this will last us through the fall, most likely. What we have left of the cord that we got in November. So we ordered 2 cords, and we wanted to learn from sort of our rookie mistake last year, because we kind of assumed that when it got delivered it would come pretty well dried out, and that wasn't the case. So we had some trouble getting it to burn well until it dried out more. So like later in the winter, it was the fire starting and keeping the fires going went way easier, and that was because the wood was drier. So this year, so next time we're like, okay, we're going to order it earlier in the year so that it can dry out longer before we need it next winter. So we had 2 cords delivered. The guy did 2 runs, and we had him dump both of them close together but in 2 different spots. So like this pile of wood was in 2 different spots. So then I spent a few days moving the wood from the pile into covered storage, 1 gorilla cart at a time. It was good work. I just took my time, took a few days at it. It was like good manual labor, but also like not beyond my capacity. So anyway, I'll show you kind of what 2 cords of wood kind of looks like. So we had him back up here, and there's a huge pile here, and so I stacked it over here yonder. So this is 3 deep. So 3 of these, 1, 2, 3 deep is what this is. And so this we've estimated is about 1.5 cords of wood that I got in there. And I'm still new in learning at how to stack wood properly. And Mike told me that the rule of thumb was to, when stacking it, have the space in between the logs be like small enough so that like a squirrel could get through, but too small for a cat to get in. There was a pithier way that he said that, but if a squirrel could get through, that's okay, but if a cat could get through, too much space. So I was like, okay, that's helpful. That's a helpful thing for me to like have in mind. So I wasn't sure how well I would do, and I feel like I did pretty good. It was actually pretty fun trying to figure out how to stack the wood, because they're all different sizes and slightly different shapes and stuff. And so anyway, that's about 1.5 cords. And then I decided I didn't want to take up this covered storage place, which is what we made first for wood, because I like being able to use the log splitter inside here and just keep it set up. So this is, I like having this be my chopping station. So I decided to grab 2 pallets, which fortunately we had on site, And also find a creative way to stack it without ends, you know, so like it takes a different type of stacking when you don't have any designated walls to keep it up. So as you can see, I just kind of like, you know, mix and match them. You know, I just turn them vertically and horizontally, you know, ongoingly throughout the pile to keep it stable, because I have done enough stacking where I was like, it's fine, I'll just stack it all in the same, you know, way, and it's never been fine. Like it always falls, you know, so it's like me shorthanding it too much. So I'm like, okay, I need to do it right. I need to find a better way to do it. So this actually worked pretty well. You know, so this is like 2 deep. And we had just like this old, we have a bunch of these actually, roofing panels from a tear-off years ago that Mike was part of. So we used one of those to cover it. You know, as long as it just kind of stays out of direct precipitation, like you want the wind, the airflow, but to move around and between the pile and stuff to dry it out. You don't want to tarp it or cover it too much. So we feel like this is probably enough. But I mean, 2 cords, it's hard to say, but I mean, 2 cords of wood will probably last us, you know, quite a while. Although next winter, we'll be adding a 3rd wood stove to feed, which is the one inside the sauna building. So there's the sauna stove itself, which operates on wood, and then the hangout space in the building the sauna is housed in also has a wood stove. And we're intending to use that, hopefully. We're hoping to like light that fire once a day to just keep it above freezing, which is why Mike insulated it so well, like the hangout space, so that there's heat transfer to these water cubes, our new additions and our, you know, recent upgrade to our rainwater catchment system. So he's still trying to figure out what he's going to do with this wall, if he'll just put some vents in. He realized he'll probably take out the insulation that he put in on the inside so that there is more heat transfer, and then there'll be an insulated box around this, and then this platform itself is really highly insulated. So we're hoping with the combination of insulation around the cubes and the heat transfer through the wall, that we'll be able to maintain that water access through the winter when it's freezing outside. So, you know, this isn't plugged in yet, but this will be put in here. You know, the chimney or the piping up top is in, but this will be situated here. And then he'll probably take out at least some or all of this insulation here so that there's more heat transfer. And then we can close this door, and this is also insulated because this area is not insulated, and this will actually be our shower. So we're actually hoping, you know, to move our shower in here and be able to shower more easily in the winter next year also, because that'll be conditioned space and the water will be hopefully flowing and not frozen. So again, another experiment we'll be running, so we'll see how that goes. But so now that we're in the process of catching a lot more rainwater with these 2 big water cubes off the new building's roof, it was always our plan to like up our storage capacity and then start filtering it for drinking and cooking water. So up until a week ago, I've been hauling potable water, which means water that you can cook with and drink with, you know, like town water that's treated. I've been hauling potable water from Missoula because I go there once a week on Mondays. And so I've been doing that, you know, coming up on almost 4 years. And but now that our capacity is so expanded, I stopped hauling potable water. I did not grab potable water when I went into town in Missoula last week. So it was the first time I've not gotten jugs of water, which felt strange. I was like, what am I missing? I don't have my jugs of water. It felt strange because it's, you know, just habit now. Like that's what I do on Mondays, or one of the many things I do on Mondays when I go to Missoula is fill up water. But I didn't have to do that. So now we are filtering the water for cooking and drinking. And we just didn't have enough capacity prior to the cubes to do that. You know, our two 55-gallon drums that operate off just this cabin's porch roof. So this isn't collecting water from the cabin roof itself, it's just from the porch. So like these 2 barrels have been, you know, more than enough for us, and we've been getting enough rain since we've been here anyway to fill those for all of our washing needs. So washing hands and dishes, and I actually think we use more washing water than we use potable water, which I find interesting because I'm acutely aware of how much we use for cooking and drinking because I haul it every week. So that's just kind of been interesting, but I was like, yeah, I haven't felt confident that we've been collecting enough to filter for potable, for drinking, cooking. So now that we have increased capacity, we are doing that, and I'll show you. So a friend of ours gave us this LifeStraw family unit a few years ago, and Mike just rigged this up so that we can plug in a 5-gallon you know, water cooler container to it, and then the water travels through here, filters through here, comes out the bottom, and now I just plug in my potable water jugs, you know, down here, and it has filtered water that comes out. And you know, having this set up is nice, so it's not just this hopper, because otherwise you just have to keep filling this every few minutes, and like that's kind of a pain, especially, you know, we're using it for all of our water needs for cooking and drinking, so we're not just doing it as like a camping trip or something. This is how we live, so we want it to, you know, be set up where we don't have to like babysit it so much. So that's worked super well. You know, this just kind of, he has like little, it just clips right in, you put some screws in, you know, super sturdy setup. And so I've already done 2 containers. And when I looked it up online, it says on average, I think it does a gallon of water in like 7 to 10 minutes, something like that. So, you know, especially since we can just put 5 gallons on there and call it good. That's been really nice, you know, and I can fill up these, you know, fairly quickly. And I don't have to just sit here and watch it and keep filling up the hopper, which is nice. So we're still operating on Missoula water right now inside the cabin. I had enough on hand for a little while. And but these, you know, once we're out of that, we'll start using our filtered water, which is now what's in these jugs. I have 2 of them filled up. So that just feels nice. It feels like, you know, every small upgrade that we do out here helps us be out here and stay out here with more, you know, ease and comfort, and, you know, sustainability. So that's always been, you know, from the beginning, our trajectory and goal, you know, that we just keep slowly increasing and upgrading our systems and ways and means of being here. And actually, we are right now in the process of taking a forest stewardship class, which has been really good for us. It is offered by the MSU Extension Forestry Office, MSU being Montana State University. And they've been offering these workshops for a while, and we tried to get in last year and it filled up too quickly. We didn't get in last year, but we got in this year, so we are taking workshops now for forest stewardship, which is basically to help us create like a management plan for our acreage. Because, you know, like, we don't know a whole lot. We, you know, we're town folk that moved into the woods almost 4 years ago, and we want to be good forest stewards. You know, now that we have acreage, we have land, we have all these lovely, amazing trees, you know, and wildlife, you know, we want to take good care of the land. And we also do want to develop it a little bit for community purposes and community building. So, like, trying to navigate and negotiate the balance of that And then also fire mitigation. We've done virtually nothing for that purpose, and we live in a really high active wildfire season area. You know, and the logging that's taking place around us right now is specifically for fire mitigation, because we live in, you know, a really dense forested area that hasn't been thinned out in a while. So, you know, just learning more about like how we want to thin and how to do that, and, you know, maybe what trees to take out strategically for both fire mitigation and also protection of our cabin. It was like really windy the other day, and some of these our close tree friends, like, definitely a little sketch, you know, they're just they were really going. And it's like, oh yeah, we have a little tiny cabin around these big trees, but you know, we're also, you know, we also really want to keep this natural, so we've done very little development of any kind to clear out land. You know, we've been very selective of taking trees down. We've taken very few down. Most of the wood that Mike has used has been all down and dead wood. And so, like, learning what the benefits are to the forest, to our cabin, negotiating all of that is just kind of a lot to take in and figure out and learn. You know, we're just, you know, super greenhorns at this. So anyway, so we're starting the first step in getting some education. So but I'm super stoked about our new ability to filter water. We are actually looking into different water filtration systems right now to replace the Life Straw. We've been looking into the Berkey system, and Mike's starting to do research into some other potential inline filtration systems. Like water filtration, especially when you're talking about rainwater, is just like a whole world. And you know, there's a lot, of course, as with anything, there's a lot of different opinions and viewpoints, and people are like, use this, no, don't use that. And, you know, I'm glad that Mike, you know, has willingness and interest enough to like research a lot of that, because like I don't know who to listen to and who to follow, and, you know, all the stuff. And so so we'll see what we do there. I'm also glad that Mike has like an interest in like just learning more about it, because I can be too blasé about that. You know, I can be like too like, it's fine, just leave it, like, which might not be the best attitude of approach to have. So I'm kind of like a less is more type of person, although he can go man overboard with research also. So like finding a balance in between his and my ways is often like the sweet spot of things. And so it's kind of cool that we have such different approaches, he and I. But anyway, super glad that he's been looking into this and researching and trying to, you know, keep us safe with our water. Super important, right? So, and, you know, we do get debris and stuff coming on the roof, and now that, you know, he's got the first flush system, which is awesome, that's been super helpful. So we have a pretty steady eye on monitoring the water that's coming into our cubes and our barrels. You know, we've got different filtration systems set up, and actually we upgraded our systems here too and got different filters for the barrels this year. So this barrel, or this filter's been super good. So this has replaced our compression sock system. That was working great. But this is way more plug and play, a lot easier, and a designated filter. So this is, yeah, so we filter, you know, when it comes off the roof. We also do a first flush, meaning we don't have this plugged into the barrel until it rains a little while and get some stuff off the roof and out of the gutter. And then we plug the barrel in after a little while. And actually this other one, that one doesn't have it on it yet, but this one actually has a new first flush system up here that Mike developed, plus the new filter down here. So he'll do that over there too, but somehow this tips out water and there's a screen in there. So this actually has two different filter systems built in, and this one will have that too at some point, but right now we just have the in-barrel filter. Another upgrade that we just got, which has been awesome, is that Mike put these in. So these are new for us, and these have been awesome. We had to order these online, so it took a little while to get here. He couldn't find quite what we needed in Missoula, and so we did have to order those special. And they're awesome. They were working really great. Prior to those, I've been using a plastic hand siphon pump to get water out of here. So now that's just one less step that I have to do to pull water out of these barrels, to either now use here to filter, or, you know, to bring inside to use in our foot pump sink. So this is just straight rainwater, you know, it's not drinking water. This is our drinking water tap in here, so I transfer, you know, water from the jugs out there to the water in here to the jug in here. So when we use this, this is our daily use spigot, so to speak, which operates on a little battery that you charge up with a USB cord. So it's been super nice. Anyway, so that's the walkthrough is a little long. Thanks for hanging in there. And I reckon we'll probably be back next week with a new video. Thanks for tuning in.